Suzanne Summers built her life the hard way. She went from losing her job in Hollywood to creating a fortune that stunned everyone who counted her out. By the time she passed, she had stacked enough wealth to set her family up for life, far beyond anything her early critics imagined. She built businesses, owned major brands, and turned her name into a money machine. The story of how she pulled it off shows a side of Suzanne most people never saw.
I had no idea about the Three's Company story, that you were fired from that. Do you know why she was fired from that show? Because she wanted as much pay as John Ritter.
Suzanne passes away with massive net worth. Former television star and businesswoman Suzanne Summers passed away on October 15, 2023, at the age of 76, just 1 day shy of her 77th birthday. Her death occurred at her home in Palm Springs, California, surrounded by her husband Alan Hamill, her son, and other immediate family. At the time of her passing, Suzanne's net worth was estimated at about $100 million, reflecting a remarkable career that spanned acting, entrepreneurship, writing, and lifestyle branding. Summers first rose to fame playing Chrissy Snow on the hit sitcom Three's Company, a breakout role that made her a household name. Her acting salary, however, never matched her star power. She had a highly publicized contract dispute with the network because her salary was far below that of her male co-star, and she was written off the show. Instead of relying solely on acting income, Suzanne built her fortune largely through her savvy business pursuits. She eventually became the face and full owner of the device known as the Thigh Master, a product she helped brand, promote, and eventually control. Suzanne's passing marked the end of a remarkable life of reinvention and enterprise, but many are wondering how she made her money when she was blacklisted from Hollywood.
I had this great lead-up of Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and then Three's Company, just because it was a little naughty.
How she made her money. Suzanne Summers' financial story is one of reinvention and entrepreneurial savvy. She tried out acting, but it didn't work out the way she was. Although she's popularly known as an actress, a bulk of her wealth didn't come from sitcom salaries, but from branding, licensing, authorship, and real estate. Her major breakthrough in wealth building came with the exercise device known as the Thigh Master. In the early 1990s, Suzanne became the face of this fitness product, and by her own account, it sold more than 10 million units. She calculated on one podcast that with a $19.95 list price and over 10 million units sold, the revenue ran close to $300 million. What makes this even more significant is that she and her husband, Alan Hamill, eventually bought out the original partners and took full ownership of the brand. With that control came far greater margins and long-term residual income. In addition to her fitness brand success, Suzanne was also a prolific author. She wrote more than 25 books covering topics such as aging, health, wellness, menopause, beauty, and her life experiences. Her books extended her personal brand and opened up new income streams from publishing, talks, endorsements, and licensing. Real estate was another piece of her wealth portfolio. For decades, Suzanne and her husband owned a sprawling compound in Palm Springs, California. It was a 73-acre estate purchased in the late 1970s, and she later sold it for around $8.5 million in 2021 after significant appreciation. She also held a Malibu beachfront lot, but after a fire destroyed her home, it was partially sold for $12 million in 2016. When Suzanne passed away at 76, she was survived by her husband, Alan Hamill, her son from her first marriage, their children and grandchildren. Her estate of about $100 million was passed to these family members, although they didn't reveal the full details of her will and asset distribution. Together, all these ventures allowed her to build a wealthy and fulfilling life that surpassed the limits of a traditional acting career. She went from a television star to a brand owner, author, and business owner. But what fans are always asking is, why didn't Suzanne earn a lot of money from acting when she was a famous actor? Well, that takes us back to her shocking scandal with ABC, which revealed truths about the treatment of actresses. ABC salary scandal. When Suzanne Summers earned her breakout television role as Chrissy Snow on the hit sitcom Three's Company in the late 1970s, she quickly became a cultural phenomenon. By its fourth season, the show was a ratings powerhouse, and Suzanne was known nationwide. But no one knew that there were financial troubles behind the scenes, especially in terms of pay disparity. Despite her status, she was earning around $30,000 per episode, while her male co-star John Ritter, who played Jack Tripper, received about $150,000 per episode. As the show became more popular, Suzanne and her husband, who was also her manager, stepped into contract negotiations ahead of the fifth season. She requested an increase to match Ritter's pay, about $150,000 per episode, plus a share of the show's profits. Her demand for higher pay wasn't as a form of compensation, but it was a bid for equality in an industry where women often earned far less than their male counterparts. The network's response was swift and unforgiving. They refused the request and only offered a nominal raise, which Suzanne found unacceptable. After that, the set became a very hostile environment. Although Suzanne was technically still under contract for the rest of her time on the show, she was eventually frozen out. Her character's presence was reduced to mere seconds of filmed appearances. She was often isolated on a separate step, escorted by security, and separated from her castmates. In fact, in her final season, she filmed only brief one-minute phone call scenes on a separate set, escorted by a guard. When talking about the situation, she revealed that the studio's stance towards her was more like, "Who do you think you are? John Ritter is the star." The souring relations extended beyond the network. She also revealed that the media framed her as being greedy because she was asking for equal pay. Her castmate Joyce DeWitt played Janet Wood, and she stopped talking to Suzanne for decades after the dispute. The tension escalated even further when DeWitt accused Suzanne of trying to steal the spotlight. Suzanne boycotted tapings as they refused to increase her pay and also ostracized her. But her boycotting didn't work, and she had to say goodbye to her acting career. Eventually, Suzanne was let go from the series in 1981. While the show continued without her, the circumstances of her exit, which was tied to her equal pay stance, sent shockwaves through Hollywood. She revealed that she was ostracized in the industry and found herself blacklisted from major television roles in the wake of the controversy. Instead of fading away, Suzanne used the turning point to become an entrepreneur. This salary scandal remains significant. Suzanne was probably the first prominent television actress to publicly demand pay equal to her male colleagues. She paid a professional cost that kicked her out of Hollywood, but her story later inspired other actresses to ask for equal pay as the years went on. But her acting career wasn't over, as Suzanne was known for her perseverance. After departing in the early 1980s, she went towards building her brand. But that wasn't all. She wasn't completely absent from the screen, although she also wasn't a mainstay in major network sitcom roles either. In the early 1990s, the television environment had shifted. Networks were looking for newer, family-friendly comedies, especially those suitable for the Friday night block. There was demand for recognizable faces who could bring credibility and some star power. Suzanne's earlier fame and public profile made her appealing for producers who wanted an experienced actor for a sitcom lead. In September 1991, she re-entered series television with Step by Step on ABC. Even if she had a bad history with ABC, she was still known in entertainment and had reinvented herself as a brand and business personality. That reinvention likely helped her secure the role of Carol Foster Lambert on Step by Step. With her fame and the producer's interest in using recognized stats and younger ensemble casts, she could easily enter the production. But it wasn't easy for her to continue in the acting industry, and with the Hollywood blacklist, she decided to reinvent herself. Hollywood blacklist and reinventing herself. The fallout from Three's Company was brutal for Suzanne Somers. After she asked for what she believed to be fair compensation, she found herself shut out. She couldn't get interviews, roles, or even media attention. In her own words, she was considered trouble. She was once the most in-demand actress on a top-rated sitcom, but she soon became persona non grata in Hollywood. Suzanne remembered that after the dispute, producers, executives, and even press outlets treated her with suspicion. Aside from her professional career, she also faced some personal challenges. Her request for equal pay created a long-lasting rift between Suzanne and DeWitt, a divide that lasted for decades. They eventually spoke to each other after 30 years of silence, and though her co-star John Ritter later reached out and reconciled before his death in 2003, the damage to Suzanne's Hollywood standing had been done. Although Suzanne was facing a lot of problems, she decided to take advantage of what she still had and turn it into success. In 1990, she and her husband, Alan Hamill, launched what would become a business empire. It was a small, simple exercise tool known as the Thigh Master. It started when she and Hamill were presented with a fitness device known as the V-Toner. It was a simple spring-hinged exercise originally intended for upper body use. Suzanne saw something different in it. While watching the demonstration, she asked, "Does this work for the inner thighs?" But they told her it only worked for arms, and most people cared more about this body part. She responded, "Not women." At that moment, the couple realized that they could reposition the device as a women's fitness tool, targeting an audience that most people overlooked. Their focus was the women who wanted to sit at home and tone their thighs without the gym fuss. With that insight, they took control and renamed it Thigh Master. Suzanne became the face of the Thigh Master. Her fame and recognizable legs helped sell the dream as a simple, sexy way to stay fit at home. The infomercials were styled for comfort and relatability, showing that squeezing the Thigh Master could be done while sitting on the couch, making it feel easy, accessible, and fun. The first campaigns were electric. The product sold 10 million units in the very first years, riding a wave of 1990s fitness and home culture. But Suzanne and her husband recalled that the 50-50 partners behind the product couldn't keep up with the massive cash flow. Suzanne revealed that her partners got drunk on money, overspending badly, which caused the couple to buy them out and assume full ownership of the brand. From then on, they owned 100%. Thigh Master wasn't a one-hit wonder. It was this brand that helped her leave behind a fortune so big it kept her family rich. Suzanne and her husband controlled the company fully, and they used its success as a launchpad for a broader wellness and lifestyle business. The brand expanded into nutritional supplements, skin care, organic cosmetics, and hair care lines. They targeted middle-aged women seeking health and beauty solutions. She also used her public persona and voice to write books, often on health, aging, wellness, and lifestyle, further extending her brand. Eventually, she became free from network contracts and the constraints of Hollywood, building a business on her own terms. She once said that although they tried to take many things from her, her visibility was something no one could take away. But she still faced different scandals, especially as she constantly promoted alternative medicine. Controversy over alternative medicine. Although her business achieved a lot of success, she was criticized a lot because of her promotion of alternative medicine and controversial health advice. She embraced bioidentical hormone therapy and unconventional cancer treatment, triggering backlash from the medical community. Many accused her of misinformation and endangerment. Summers publicly endorsed what she and others called bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, BHRT, presenting it as a safer, more natural alternative to conventional hormone therapies prescribed for menopause and related conditions. In her book Ageless, The Naked Truth About Bioidentical Hormones, she leaned heavily on the protocols developed by T.S. Wiley, namely the so-called Wiley Protocol, which recommended rhythmic doses of hormones purported to revive youthful health and stave off the ailments of aging. But many physicians and experts rejected these claims as unsubstantiated, emphasizing that the protocol lacks rigorous scientific backing. A group of 7 doctors issued a public letter calling the therapy scientifically unproven and dangerous. Critics warned that the term bioidentical was often used as a misleading marketing tool, suggesting a naturalness or safety that doesn't hold up under medical scrutiny. In reality, bioidentical hormones are chemically synthesized drugs, subject to the same risks as conventional hormone therapies. Increased risk of breast cancer, heart disease, strokes, blood clots, and other serious long-term health concerns. Suzanne believed in alternative treatments so much even after menopause. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2000, she rejected chemotherapy and instead adopted holistic and alternative approaches. She endorsed non-conventional cancer therapies instead, and even questioned normal oncological treatments. But she still had many supporters, as Suzanne represented a voice of empowerment. Many saw her as a celebrity unafraid to challenge pharmaceuticals and medical orthodoxy, offering an alternative path for women seeking solutions to menopause, aging, or cancer. She defended herself, saying she was a patient advocate who had done her own research. Suzanne also faced controversies before her fame, like when she was sued by Playboy magazine. Lawsuit with Playboy. The controversy surrounding Suzanne and Playboy magazine remains one of the most talked about legal episodes in her career. In 1980, shortly after Suzanne gained fame for her role on Three's Company, Playboy published nude test photos of her. These were images from a 1970 shoot that were never meant for publication. Suzanne said that these photos were from a preliminary modeling session, taken at a time when she was still a struggling single mother hoping to pay medical bills for her son after his accident. Suzanne said that she never agreed to the photos being public and was hurt and furious when Playboy released those images without her consent. She described the photos as lousy and unrepresentative because they were taken when she was 18, newly a mother, and 20 pounds heavier than she later became. Feeling that her public image and career might be damaged irreparably, Suzanne filed a lawsuit against Playboy. The dispute ended with a settlement. She received $50,000, which she then donated to charity. Despite that acrimonious start, the relationship with Playboy eventually took an unexpected turn. In 1984, the magazine approached her again, this time offering a full pictorial, but under conditions she set. She demanded total editorial control. She insisted on selecting the photos herself, choosing the photographer, controlling poses and wardrobe, and approving exactly which images would be published. Playboy reluctantly agreed. With the 1984 shoot, Suzanne was able to rewrite the terms of her image, reclaiming agency over her body and how it was presented. Reflecting on the decision later, she questioned why bad photos should continue to circulate when she could supply photos that portrayed her in the best shape she had after years of performing and dancing. At that time, female photographs had little leverage over how they were photographed or marketed. But Suzanne was the first to legally push back on her own terms. She was willing to challenge a powerhouse publisher and demand control over her own image, and that was rare in the 1980s. Early struggles. Even before she went into the world of acting, she faced early struggles and hardship. She was born Suzanne Marie Mahoney on October 16, 1946, in San Bruno, California, into a working-class Irish-American Catholic family. Her mother worked as a medical secretary and her father as a laborer and gardener. But even with both parents working, the household was far from stable. Her father struggled with alcoholism and was abusive, creating a home environment marked by fear and insecurity. Academically, Suzanne faced more than just financial instability. She dealt with dyslexia and endured the trauma of living under a volatile roof, which often left her unable to focus in class or sometimes nodding off, exhausted by the turmoil at home. Still, she discovered an outlet in the performing arts. Early on, she found refuge in theater and music. Leading roles in school plays such as HMS, Pinafore, and winning praise for her performances kept her tethered to a dream beyond hardship. But adolescence offered no easy escape. At 14, she was expelled from school for writing suggestive notes to a boy, notes that were never sent, signaling the start of a turbulent teenage phase. Later, at 17, after a heated confrontation with her father, who ripped her prom dress and demeaned her, Suzanne defended herself in anger, an act she's described as a turning point, a moment when she realized she couldn't remain powerless. She graduated high school in 1964 and briefly attended a Catholic college on a music scholarship. But life intervened unexpectedly. She became pregnant and, at age 19, married the child's father, soon becoming a young single mother. That early motherhood abruptly derailed any thoughts of a traditional career path. Suddenly burdened with adult responsibilities and the urgent need to support her son, Suzanne turned to odd jobs. To make ends meet, she sold handmade chocolate desserts to restaurants and sewed children's dresses to sell on consignment. These early hustles reflect a survival instinct more than ambition for fame. Eventually, she turned to modeling in San Francisco to try and create a more stable life. From there, she began taking bit parts in films and television during the late 1960s and early 1970s. She appeared in small roles, sometimes uncredited, but each was a stepping stone away from economic insecurity toward something bigger. Suzanne Somers shockingly left behind a fortune, and it wasn't even from acting. After passing, she left her family with an estate worth $100 million after years of building a long and successful career. What do you think was the most exciting part of her career? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.